Hello? Yo, yo, yo. Alright, let's do a quick review. Had a couple of hours sleep, got up. Thought I would just watch some Matty Bevan footage. I'm a bit wrecked still, but let's kick it off.
Alright, we're doing some two tabling of the 25
Missed
NL
the start there.
ignition. Should be good, should be good. Very first hand here, blind on blind, small blind raises to 4x, which is quite big. Defend the ace 5, he checks, I barrel, he take it down, which is always good. We're going to be playing Zoom to try and get more hands in for the purpose of this video. Pocket threes against these guys, definitely good enough to set mine. If I...
Hang on.
You did.
Yeah, I disagree there. I think calling is a mistake in the small blind with threes, especially at 25 and L. The rake is fucking ridiculous. If you have a look at solvers and stuff like that, they would never flat there. They would squeeze or fold mostly. You can definitely call more than solvers because the big blind's not going to squeeze as much and players are going to be bad. But either way, you're still going to be out of position to at least two players, probably three, in a shit rake scenario. Even if you hit your set, it's still not going to be great because you're out of position. You're likely going to check, could check around, all that kind of stuff. It's not terrible, but I just don't really think it's necessary. And I think a lot of people just set mine there and really don't think too much about it when they probably should, because I don't think it's as good as what people think.
I was going to say... Never mind. Don't worry about it. It's gone now. 9, 10, 7, 9 jack, sorry. This is not a very good flop. I am going to bet. I still think there's enough hands that can call us. Let's size up a bit. 9, 10 is going to be a...
Yeah, so this is a little bit odd. And it's something you'll see more at lower stakes and definitely live games that we play and stuff like that is people flatting behind. The button isn't obvious is pretty common to have a flat range. As you go up stakes online in six max, you'll very rarely face a flat from anywhere but the button, and obviously the big blind from a good reg. Um, but yeah, from the button, you pretty well. The issue is especially on these anonymous tables and the lower stakes and stuff like that, is that ranges are really hard to ascertain because everyone plays so different. This could be a fish with like a 20% range, or it could be a reg who's flatting like 5% to 8%. So they're pretty different. Regardless of that, though, typically in these situations, and particularly on these flops, you want to check out of position a ton. So you want to base your range around. You want to play out of a check range essentially. So from a GTO point of view, flops that are 10 high and down when you're out of position to single raise pot, you just want to check range, and then you want to play a large check raise range, like up to 20%, maybe 25% of your range you check raise, depending on the board. That's for 10 high and down. Jack, it starts being a bit mixed. And king high is a bit better, and we can start pushing, betting a lot more. That's at a GTO point of view. Exploitively though, against wider ranges and more passive people, you can push equity by betting more. So the wider they are, the more passive they are, the more that they only raise nuts and high equity draws, like for example sets in queen 10 here. The more they only raise that, the more that you should be betting, but the more that you bet small, because the equity comes from betting small. They either overfold or they just flat call, and you see another street, you see another turn, but the pot is still relatively small. The issue is when you bet hands like this here. And also, yeah, just so you know, they should be raising you in position here. Should be raising you, given their range, and depending on your bet size, somewhere between 7 to 18%. So if you use a bigger bet size like 66%, 2/3, 3/4, whatever, they should be raising you about 8%. And if you use a smaller bet size, they should be raising like 18%. Now, nobody live, nobody in micro stakes is doing that, which is again another reason why you can bet more and bet more hands like this. Yeah, so they should be really raising like combinations that people don't even think about, like wouldn't even enter in their mind to raise. Like people should be raising Jack 10 here against your bet. They should be raising 9-10 and 9x and things like that to your bet because you're out of position. They should be raising small because they still benefit from a larger stack to pot ratio with their position, but they should be raising those type of hands. But they're not doing that. They're not even thinking about doing that. So all of that means you can basically just bet more. So yeah, but when you think about the typical cold call range here in the button, it connects pretty well with this flop, even if they are even if they are wider. Sorry, man, a bit scattered still. But yeah, it's going to connect well with this flop. So I think a typical cold call range is going to be like low to mid pocket pairs and based around broadways like Jack and X. So that range crushes this flop. So he probably has a bit of a range advantage, and he definitely will if his range is tight like it should be. Your range here is like, you know, probably 25% from the cutoff. Given this rake, you should be a bit tighter. So about 25% in the cutoff, maybe more. But the button should be flatting. Let's just say, keep it easy. Let's just say like 8%, right? So his range is essentially 1/3 as condensed as yours. So while you have all the bigger cards, like you have aces and you have kings and you have queens, uh, that's just my dog and my wife, and he doesn't have those cards, but his range is so much more condensed that his value makes up a larger proportion of his range, and therefore it's probably stronger, and he probably has range advantage. So whenever you don't have range advantage and you're out of position because it's made him worse, then you want to do a lot of checking and check range. So from a GTO perspective, I would probably check here for those reasons, and plus you're out of position, right? So you don't really want to bloat the pot where you're not going to realize a ton of your equity. Because think about how many gross turns and rivers there are. Think about if you bet here, but large, and you get called, how many turns and rivers do you think that you can actually either continue to bet or are going to be able to safely navigate, especially in a large pot? So you don't want to bloat the pot out of position and then have to check and just be at the mercy of the in position person. So I would probably check call a lot here. So I probably wouldn't check raise much at all. Not this combo anyway, definitely not this combo. I would have a check raise range for sure, but not this combo, just for those reasons. Like you check raise, you get called, and then there's really like what you want a 2, you want a 3. Those are good, but there's fuck all good turn cards and fuck all even worse river cards, and you're not going to realize shit. So for that reason, I would probably check range, but exploitively, I don't mind a small bet.
Well, let's take it down. It's just kind of the board where you like see better than you raise and you start.
Yeah, so that turn is just a great example of what we're talking about. So you bet big, you get called. What do you do now? Like, what do you actually do? Like, you're kind of fucked, right? So that's why I would just check a lot.
Start to vomit, and that's just a terrible turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Check 4 mode. 25 and now I think there's going to be definitely some players that are capable of bluffing, particularly the ones that are on deep stack. These ones sitting on 14 and $13 are probably going to be less likely to bluff. I'm not sure if I'm happy with the full 3x here. Might go 65, I think it's better sizing.
I think at low stakes with high rake, you should be using big sizes pre-flop, like so at least 3x for your opens, maybe 4x and things like that. Yeah, you really want to discourage people into the pot with the rake.
Really ever snap all the big lines open, just never playing
People just really don't realize how much of effect rake actually has in the game, especially at these levels. It is huge. Like you can't understate it really. You just need to be cognizant of that.
Let's be honest. We've got some short stacks going here. Pocket 3's under the gun to fold. Could probably open all pocket pairs in Zoom. under the gun, but it's mostly looking to fold
Probably
boosters
disagree.
wise.
Yeah, I disagree. I disagree with that as well for the same reasons, and I'll harp on about it as the rake. The rake is massive. Solvers in a low rate game, solvers are only opening like half of fives and up. They'll never open anything under that under the gun. Obviously, because they're going to get three bet a lot, they're not going to realize their equity and stuff like that. They prefer larger cards, like they would rather open King 10 off and Queen Jack off under the gun than the low pocket pairs for those reasons. So I would fold those. Um, yeah, even in weaker tables and over folding and stuff, you can probably start playing a little bit more, but you still want those bigger cards more. So I would probably, if I was going to open my range, I would open it that way.
We will be and here.
Oh, we got
Just
two.
call here.
Right, I'll start with the King 10 first.
Here with
Standard call and standard call
button.
pre.
Get a standard C bet. We'll stick the call here with King High. And hit the back doors.
Yeah, good. So I like that nice quick call. You want to get your thought process real quick, real succinct. You have King 10, right? So it's an easy call pre-flop, and on the flop you basically have to call all King X that connects this forward because your ranges are so wide. His range is wide, your range is wide. You're going to have to continue wide even against that sizing. So you basically, any King X that connects to the Queen, so you know King Jack, King 10, maybe King 9 will be the bottom. You need to call basically all Ace X. I think you'd need to call as well. So yeah, you definitely need to call that, and it's a nice snap call, like it.
We can turn a Jack, we can turn 9, we can turn a 10, we can turn an Ace, we can turn a King, all those sort of hands.
Yeah, nice.
And now he checks. I'm just gonna stab once and give up on the river. Betting $1.10 here, betting half pot here, standard C-man betting my range here, blind.
Yeah, again, it's just something that we spoke about before. I'd just like to hear more about your actual bet sizing, as to why you're choosing the bet sizing. Again, there's probably rationale behind it, but we never really talk about it. So I would like to hear more about that. But I like this hand. I'm not a huge fan of the turn bet. I think exploitively it's okay when people just bet and they check and they don't protect their checking range and things like that, and you can take advantage of that, which is what you did. So exploitively it's fine. But again, I'd like to hear that, like this guy or this pool massively overfolds to turn probes once they check, things like that. But when you think about theory wise, you want to check back this flop, because his range is wide, your range is wide, you have to continue wide. So you've got all that King X, you've got all that Ace X that we spoke about, you've got, you know, basically anything that can have backdoors and things like that. So your range is sufficiently wide. So if you're going to start betting every single one of these combos here, well, one, a good player is just going to adjust and they can just check call a lot or check raise a lot. But two, and this is the thing that I'm more concerned about, is if you're betting this combo on the turn, the King 10 with no heart, well, what are your bluffs when you check back turn on the river and the river goes check check? And this is another thing that I think you can build into your game as an exploit. When someone checks behind on the turn and you check on the river and they bet, you can overfold because of this exact reason, because they over bluff versus check on the turn, and they basically bet all their bluffs or most of their bluffs. So when it goes check check on the river, they don't really have that many bluffs left. Again, that's very, very general, but I think this kind of exemplifies it, and it's what I noticed when I was at 25 and 50 now. So I would check back here just because, one, the 10 is shit. The 10 sucks, man. Like, you don't want the 10 in your hand because it blocks all of his folding range, like 10-9 and Jack 10 and all that kind of shit. Secondly, the King does have some sort of showdown value. You know, you only when you bet there, particularly for that sizing as well, you basically only get called by better, and you really don't fold out that much worse. You basically fold out some Ace X. That's it. Some Ace X and maybe some King Jack. So you don't fold out that much worse. So if I was going to bet, I'd use a smaller size, but I would probably check back just because you do have some slowdown value. And even more so, you have a really good hand to bluff on rivers once it goes check check. Because if he checks again on the river, then you can bet your king high and stuff like that, and choose other hands on the turn. You have so many hands to bluff here on this turn. It's not funny. Like, think about all the hands you have to bluff. You have any heart, you have any 7, you have any 8, you have any 3, and all of those hands can fold out a ton more worse hands than your king X. They benefit from fold equity straight away, and they can also improve on the river, while your king 10 has none of those things. So I think this is more just, oh, he's checking, I'm betting, which is fine, exploited, but I think you really want to start thinking about those types of things more. And I would prefer to see a check back and a bluff on the river. But nice hand, you're still on the pot, and nice exploitable play here. Now let's go back and have a look at this queen jack.
Fold the deuces to 5s. We will be this hand here. Let me just call here. Over here we go right on the button. We get a standard C bet. We stick a call over here with king high and with the back doors. We can turn a jack, we can turn a 9, we can turn a 10, we can turn an ace, turn a king, all those sort of hands. And now he checks. I'm just gonna stab once and give up on the river. Betting $10 here, betting half pot here, standard C bet, betting my range here, blind versus button.
Yeah, so that's interesting as well. So one, you need to be careful with the blinds. The small blind should typically have a very, very different range to the big blind. Not always at these stakes, and basically anyone who flats in the small blind is a fish. Seriously, anyone who flats in the small blind to a button open is a fish. They're just a whale. You shouldn't be doing it. Like, the rake is fucking massive. You're gonna be playing out of position. You're gonna entice the big blind in. You're gonna get squeezed a lot. You just shouldn't be flatting. You just don't do it. So anyone who does it when it's not already multi-way and the button isn't a whale and all those kind of things, it's just a fish. So you could probably mark this guy straight away. That said, their range should still be fairly or significantly narrower than the big blind. So they're going to be tighter. So because their range is tighter, then you need to be more cautious with your betting and things like that. That said, if this was like a big blind, then yeah, you could almost range bet. I wouldn't hate it. He's not going to have queens or anything like that. So yeah, I don't hate a range bet. I don't think I'd be range betting, but if I was, I wouldn't be using half pot. That doesn't really make sense to me. I'm not saying that you never range bet for half pot. You actually do quite a lot. It's more when you're out of position in 3-bet pots on certain flop textures. Like, for example, if you were to 3-bet small blind first button and the flop was, I don't know, 2-7, you would definitely be range betting, and you would be using big sizes like minimum half, maybe even 3/4 to pot and stuff like that, because of all of your pocket pairs and all of your overs. So all your value has a lot of equity, or your bluffs have a lot of equity, so you size up massive. But here, for example, you're in position and it's a single raise pot and the ranges are wider, so you don't really want to be range betting for a half pot. It's unnecessary. If you're going to do it, just go 1/4 or 1/3. But hey, if you want to be exploitative and just go, well, I have a decent hand here, they're not going to know me, I want to size up a bit, that's fine as well. And size up a bit with your good hands and size down with your shit hands. No one's going to know. That's fine. But again, it's just that you're not really talking about your bet sizing. It's like, I'm just range betting here and you just bet half pot. That doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't make any sense theoretically, and it doesn't make any sense from an exploitative standpoint. So I would probably, again, just want to work on that a little bit. But the hand is standard and well played.
That's blind. Nice. Pick it down.
Nice, Matt. Nice.
Probably checking back there and calling or even raising river. I think he's calling. Now these only thing with this ignition is that you don't get to really mark players, and well, you can mark them, but you don't know.
Oh, the new ignition
Each player
update's
is
fucking
randomized,
terrible.
so you can't really
I need stars
track
back so bad.
stats on them, so, which is fine. We pick up Big Slick in the small
Big
one.
Slick, yeah.
Be able to get in one of these guys.
Fucking good him.
35.
Fucking good him.
Size into 250 here. If we get a caller here, I'm making it $3.
You should make it $3 anyway, mate. You should be 4xing out of position as a standard, regardless. Even in higher rake, like the high stakes crushes, will be 4xing here. So you should at least be 4xing again because of those rate considerations. It is short though, but that doesn't matter.
Apologies for my slot. Probably make it bigger. 275 is okay.
Nah,
Just get
$3 min.
Yeah, so I think this guy's probably a fish. I'll just probably go like 3/4 pot. There's so many hands he can call us with. I don't think he's ever fighting a king. He's never fighting a hand like Queen Jack.
Nice hand.
Pair of diamonds.
Love it.
Erasers, I'm probably just gonna have to get it in. I don't love it, but I'm probably just stacking off.
Absolutely, nice hand.
Expecting to lose sometimes.
No feedback unnecessary.
Bit of a crush here, which is good. 8-6 offsuits.
I've even lost a hand, cunt.
On the small blind anyway. And we look down at 9-3 clubs on the big blind, see what happens. Most likely going to be a fold though. Pocket 9s on the button, this looks good. There's some deep stacks going on here, this is good. Okay, I guess we have to call getting like saying odds. Pocket 9s here. Big one's gonna have very wide range, but he's not gonna continue. We don't really want to get raised. I'm just gonna check back. Play some turns. That's a good turn. Continue on that one.
Cool. So I absolutely agree with you on the flop. Again, we can go a little bit deeper. So is this a range? Is this a flop that we want to range bet? Well, he doesn't have queens. He doesn't have jacks. He shouldn't really have queen jack suited. He's gonna have queen jack off for sure. He's going to have like things like ace 10 suited and all that kind of stuff, ace queen sometimes, I'm guessing at this level. Yeah, those types of things. So no, I probably don't want to range bet. So we want to go polar. Does this fit in a polar range? No. But yeah, so I'd probably be going a bit polar, sizing up and checking back this, just like you said. I would check back all mid pocket pairs just because they fucking suck in these situations. They block all the wrong shit. Like, you know, they just block the worst shit. They block 9-8, all the smaller, the lower pairs and stuff like that. They're just not the hands, and they don't benefit really from value betting. They're not going to protect against much and things like that. So yeah, it's a pretty easy check back. I think if you think about your range on the flop, your value range is pretty easy to ascertain. You know, you've got your sets, you've got your 2 pair, you've got your ace queen, and basically any queen x, some jack x as well, some good jack x. So your value range is like really easy to determine. And then when you think about your bluff range, you want to block their continuing range and their best hands, and you also want to have equity. So when you think about what their best hands are, we've already said he has ace queen and he has queen x. So you want to block those, and you also want to block the flush draw and the backdoor flush draw. So you know, your nut flush draws are great. Your backdoor nut flush draws are great, especially those that contain a king x and a 10x. So I'd be betting a ton of ace, king, 10 with a spade. I would also be betting a ton of 3x as well. Again, this is something that a lot of players don't do. Even sort of the better players, the regs, they don't bet enough of the bottom pairs here. Because if you have a 3, for example, like let's say ace 3 or whatever, 3-4, whatever you have, it doesn't actually benefit a lot from a check back. Like if you check back, there's really not many turns that you're going to be comfortable calling a bet, and then you're not going to know what to do. Like, what do you do here if you check back? So essentially, you push way more equity by betting with your bottom pair, and you can barrel off and turn it into a bluff and things like that. So I'd be betting all my 3x as well, and then I would also be betting my small pocket pairs with a heart. Again, this is another thing, and this is like a more GTO solver based strat. So you should love it, you fucking internet kid. You want to bet your small pocket pairs like pocket fours, pocket twos, pocket fives with a heart for the same reasons that you bet a three, but you do it with a heart because you block their continuing range, you block their flush, and then you can also barrel and turn those into bluffs on heart runouts and things like that. They just don't benefit from checking back. So that's how I would construct my betting range on the flop. Um, if you were going to bet pocket nines, you would, for those reasons, pick the nine of hearts. So you're essentially just trying to block shit, get protection, and then possibly look to turn your hand into bluff later on. So on this turn, the turn is actually really good for you because he doesn't have any pocket tens and he doesn't have any ace king, and you do. So it's a really good turn. Let's see what happens. Interesting.
You could definitely be betting King X here, 8x, some 10x as well. I don't expect to be always.
Yeah, so this is interesting because it's such a good hand for you, and because you're perceived to have so much ace king, particularly fish and lower stake regs and stuff like that, or pretty much anyone. Like they're always gonna lean to putting you on ace king. So whenever ace king features heavily in your range and makes the nuts, I'm going to be very, very cautious about their betting, because I just think that they think that you have ace king a lot and they're still betting. So I'm just going to be a bit more cautious because of how how much ace king is perceived to be in your range. That not saying I would fold at all. It's just in the back of my mind. So I think if he when he bets, we want a raising range here for sure because we have ace king. We want to raise our ace king. We also have 9-8. We also have tens. So we want to raise a lot of those combos, and because we're raising those, we're going to need some bluffs. So what bluffs do we want? I would probably raise as a bluff some ace x. Maybe ace 9 is probably the nut bluff hand, because obviously you can hit and you also block his 9-8 and his ace queen and things like that. King X is also really good for obvious reasons. And funny enough, pocket nines is a pretty decent raise here in position. So it seems a bit counterintuitive, but when you think about it, when you have pocket nines, you block his only straights, which is king 9 and 9-8. So you block his straights. You're pretty much never ever going to get 3-bet here because of your ace king. He's just never going to 3-bet you. So you can raise to like, I don't know, $1.75, maybe $2, and then you can pretty much check back any river except the ones that you hit. So when you hit, you can value bet rivers, otherwise you can check back because you could still get called by worse when you raise. So he can still have nut flush draws. He has all ace x of hearts. He has like king x, like you said. He has a ton of king x. He has, you know, all that shit. So, and you can still fold out hands as well, which benefits. So raising here with pocket nines is actually pretty decent. I probably wouldn't do it all the time. Yeah. Sorry, man. She's just yelling at the dog. I probably wouldn't do it all the time, but I definitely think you should start considering raising hands like this in position. I would probably just RNG it, maybe do it half the time. I kind of like it. And then folding, I would fold all my undercards, like all my pocket pairs, and you know, shit hands that can't improve. So any hand that can't really improve to a better hand, I would fold. So you know, sevens and shit like that, which again is why the small pocket pairs make really good bets on the flop, especially with the heart. But I would call like all my queen x, any pocket pair that can improve to, you know, like a straight or a better hand, like king jack, 10-8, those type of hands. So that's how it would play. And if he was to check, I think you just bet similar hands. So you start betting King X and 9X as a bluff, and some Ace X, and then you bet all your. Now you start betting all your two pairs that you turn, like Jack 10, Queen 10, your King Queen type hands. You start betting as well now. So you just, because you can value bet your weaker hands that you couldn't bet on the flop, you put them in your betting line, and then you basically add bluffs to compensate that. This is very well played so far.
Winning. And
Oh, nice.
definitely gonna be calling the river. He checks on bet.
Oh, hang on, just one more thing. When I was saying that you wouldn't get bluff raised, I don't think you're ever going to get bluff raised by most people. You're never going to get bluff raised at these stakes. But if it was me, I would check. I would basically bluff raise you with. Yeah, I would still three bet if I was this guy. I would still three bet with some straights and some straights with a heart, and then maybe just some combo draws. Yeah, for sure. Just for the reason that you can be raising with pocket nines and all those type of bluff hands, and then check back river. So I would definitely be doing that, but you don't really have to worry about it.
There's a noise just have hearts. Checks. And
Speaking of, beautiful.
$1.23 looks good. Shouldn't have too.
And the best thing about this is, like I was just saying on the turn, even more so, once they check, you can pretty much just always, like, you obviously have to bet. You have a clear value betting hand with pocket nines, right? They're not going to protect their range, so they're not going to check back. They're not going to check flushes on the river, hardly ever, not enough to worry about. And even better is they are never going to check raise bluff you here. They're never going to do. They should be check raise. They should check raise bluff you with. All right, I'll ask you the question, and I'll wait a couple of seconds so you can have a good think about it, or just pause it. What do you think he should check raise with? So I think value is pretty obvious. Yeah, value is pretty obvious, so we don't really need to talk about that. But he should definitely be having some check raise for value with obviously the flushes. But what do you think he should check raise bluff with? Have a think. All right. It's pretty easy. He should be check raise. He should check raise you with the bottom of his calling range that can't call. So the top of his folding range. Yeah, that's better. The top of his folding range. So he should check raise you with ace queen with the ace of hearts, king queen with the heart. Yeah, king queen with a heart would be nuts as well. So the king of hearts. Ace jack with the ace of hearts, although he shouldn't really be betting that on the turn. Ace of hearts is good, but considering his turn play, he should really only have like ace queen, king queen, those type of things. But any sort of hand like that with the ace of hearts, he should check raise, because he checks because he can still win. This is the, when you think about check raising hands, this is where people just fuck this up completely. Most of the time when you think about check raising a hand as a bluff, you want to check hands that can still win on showdown if they get checked back, if they face a check back. So for example, ace queen with the ace of hearts, if he checks back, there's a good chance that he's going to win, because you can check back worse, or you can give up and things like that. Same with ace 10, for example. So that's why you check. But then once you bet, he's never good. Like, you're never betting worse than ace queen, right? You're never betting king queen here. Never. You're just never doing it. So because you're never doing it, ace queen's never good. It's only good against a bluff, and I don't really think you have any bluffs here. And he has other better hands that he should be check calling, like two pairs sets and things like that. So ace queen can't check call, and because it can't check call, it has to fold, or there's a third option, it can turn itself into a bluff, but you would want to do it with the heart for regulation, and obviously bluffing the hearts. So plus as well, think about it, you checked back flop, So even though you should be checking back flop with some flush draws, most people don't. So therefore, you're going to be more capped than what you should be, and you should have less flushes and things like that. So I think you should check raise those type of hands. But anyway, that's just me having a bit of a fucking Dexy rant.
Too many flushes here once we check back the flop.
React can't.
Yeah. So it is the king
Call
nine.
can't.
Double
Call.
king
Fuck.
nines, though.
That's it though.
Take it
Playing
down.
very well, man.
I mean, even if we don't have a straight there, it goes to show that just being in position, you can just take it away. You can do a lot of crafty, neat things on the button.
Getting crafty now.
10 for a hearts. I'm just gonna fold this.
Yeah, good
Get some
fold.
Fish. This guy is on a monster stack. Holy smokes! Then you got around 500 big ones, and this guy opens. So
Wow.
I'm just gonna fold the 9 suited.
Yeah, I like that fold. Even as a standard open, 9-8 isn't always a defend. It's a 3-bet, I think, around 50% of the time, GTO in a lower rake environment. So against a higher rake environment, you should be predominantly folding 9-8 of spades, or 9-8 suited. You're obviously never flat, so it's a 3-bet fold. So the high rake and also this bet sizing, so that's a very good fold. Should be easy fold, but it's a very good one. Most people 3-bet those hands a lot
King 5
incorrectly.
hearts, most likely gonna be a fold.
Too much, I mean.
Wait, see what happens.
Like I would 3-bet it a 50% there. Actually, no, I'd probably 3-bet it too much. I'd probably 3-bet about 75%.
Raising. The good thing about this is that you can open to different sizes because no one knows who you are unless you're the dude on $130. Then everyone knows who you are. You get 3-bet against it under the gun.
Nothing you can do but call here.
Okay, definitely getting the odds to set line. I think he's going to have some of the big aces, some high pocket pairs, maybe some bluffs.
It's an okay flop.
Oh my!
What happened there? What the fuck?
Oh my god!
What the fuck happened there?
That's really fucking annoying. That's really.
You must have. Yeah,
really
you folded.
What
the fuck? Oh, that sucks.
Fuck's sake. I was planning on. Just planning on check raising.
Yeah, I don't know about check raising there. It's okay. You probably do need a check raise range against a sufficiently wide 3-bet range because he should be 3-betting like all ace king and all that type of shit, which is what 16 combos, and then he's got maybe jacks up, which is what jacks queens. So that's 24 combos. So he should have, yeah. So he should be able to do some check raising there. And he should be wider than ace king as well. I don't know if they are, but even if they're not, more than half his range is ace king, which you're in front of. So I don't mind check raising, but tens is getting a little bit thin. His range should be 3-bet or fold there, so it should be merged. So he should be 3-betting like jack 10 and things like that, ace 10. So tens aren't the greatest there. I would rather check raise things like queens and jacks that I would probably flat are still a fair bit there. Ace king also I would probably check raise more than tens. Funny enough, I wouldn't always 4-bet. I'm going to have a very, very tight 4-betting range against a lower stakes player, against the 3-betting under the gun. So I'm still going to have some ace king, and I would 3-bet those. I didn't see what the flop was, and I probably don't want to go back. But check raising some tens is okay, but I would check raise, I would regulate and use the combos that don't have a backdoor flush draw. So let's have a look. Yeah, so I'd want the 10 of hearts. I'd want the 10 of hearts here. So you don't really want the backdoor flush draw because you want him to be betting like, you know, jack 10 of diamonds and jack 10 of clubs, which is what a good reg would do, right? They would say, well, your best hand is typically, one of your best hands is typically going to be jacks and tens, so I block those, so I'm going to build my bluff range around that. But they would also choose hands that have equity, so that's backdoor flush draws, so they would choose like jack 10 of clubs, jack 10 of spades and things like that. So that's why you don't want to have, that's why you prefer to have the heart, because you want them to fucking have the hands that you have. But yeah, so I would regulate like that. do with some RNG. I think check raising 10 to 100% of the time here is quite a mistake. I fold now.
My god. That's really fucking annoying.
And then you got queens and jacks, which obviously just beat jacks and tens as well. So that's why they make better check raises.
Fuck's sake. I was planning on, just planning on check raising.
Also, if you check raise, what do you do when you get called on a turn? I think you have to just check again. Will be a mad cunt to go double check raise. Whoop!
Pick up. Stones. Big blind.
Easy call.
We don't need to defend this one.
Wait, what the fuck? What the fuck? Don't tell me you followed a 970 here.
Stones. Big blind. We don't need to defend
Get fucked, you cone fucking wearing cunt. Nah, I'm fucking out. Fuck you, can't fuck.